Did we know there were 2 episodes dropping?
No, super surprise. They wanted to free up Punisher on the final week because before Punisher was basically airing after the finale.
Yeah.
So maybe they wanted that to give a breather, or they thought episode 2 was a bit too boring, so they wanted to give it episode 2 and 3. Because normally the game plan would be the premiere. You do the 2-episode drop so that people like get invested and it's like a movie night. But I think it was a good decision, and I think this is what last week should have been. This is exactly what I wanted from last week.
It kind of reframes the entire season itself, which is interesting that they felt the need to have to include really anything from episode 1, because I don't really think anything from episode 1 is important.
Only the boat.
Only the boat, which you could have just had like in a flashback and tell us it happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Just still the intro, yeah. We had the status quo from last season, and all episode 1 was just retelling his stuff, and I did not care at all. But episode 2, they explained why a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
They backed completely off the Fisk doing the lockdown thing, which was already pretty kind of dumb. We were all like, how is Fisk able to do that? They at least bothered to address that by getting the governor in. She's like, oh, the polls are up, so like I'm letting you do this. I'm giving I'm giving you some rope. We'll see if you hang yourself. And then he's like, let's not tell people that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. We can play both sides.
Yeah. This one actually sets up premises and like gives us character motivations and like gives us almost like, oh, this is where the show is going to go for this season, where season 1 couldn't do that.
For sure.
I think shows nowadays, especially Daredevil with this season, I was thinking about it, each episode doesn't have its individual identity anymore. There's like seasons of TV shows where I'm like, oh, I really just want to watch that one episode. Or like you knew each episode by itself.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gone from that day and age where I couldn't tell you about what my favorite episode of last season of this show was, or even this season.
Last episode had a few more, but they were the remnants of the previous one. Like you at least had Bank Heist episode, but for the rest of the season, apart from like White Tiger, yeah, they all blended.
Yeah.
This season is already doing that for sure. They're kind of framing it around fights, which I kind of hate. This one is the fight where there's prisoners. The last one was like a fight on the boat. The second episode was like a fight at the very end.
The fight in the apartment.
They have been doing that where it's like every episode they decided to put a fight in, because the fight at the end of episode 2 where suddenly Josie's bar gets raided, even though dumbest hiding place ever, exactly where you'd expect
Especially because the whole inside of the place was lit up.
Yeah.
Like it was like a regular Friday
Yeah,
night.
they had the neon lights going and they're like, this is fine. But that fight at the end there doesn't change anything that happens in the next episode apart from they acquire a key card. And it's like, they really did do it because there's 5 minutes left of the episode. You could almost count down. You're like, okay, it's fight time.
Yes, yeah.
And then same with episode 3.
I think you like pulled up the timer. You're like, oh yeah, this is the last few minutes.
Yeah, like, oh, guess we're doing prison fight.
But they could have literally just had Karen, like Matt get back from doing some Daredevil stuff. Like he's already in a bad mood. And Karen's like, look what I did. I got a guy. And he's like, are you, like I have this whole process I do, you know, and you're just going to be like, I got a dude to interrogate. He's like, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
Something I'm liking a bit more with these 2 episodes, I think they're slowly calming down with how many stories we're seeing a little bit. I feel like it's not, maybe episode 1, they just needed to get it all out there to regale us.
Episode 1 was a remember this person.
But with this, I feel like we're cutting a little less frequently. There was a lot of speculation on how would Matt have known that it was Bullseye who saved him. But we do get like a 10-second shot of him like feeling the engraving on the knife and it says subscribe to Burgunbeard on it.
Damn, did he become a member?
No.
Because it really helps the channel.
No, he's blind. He can't see the button.
Oh no.
I feel like my main thing I'm taking away is the stuff with Daniel, which is weird. So there's a mole in Fisk's cabinet.
Who could it be?
Who could it be? BB. To, you know, that fake news kind of fake Fisk.
The anonymous
Slander
broadcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's one storyline. Kingpin is deciding to idolize Matt Murdock at the same time that he's villainizing Daredevil.
I really enjoyed that.
He's the hero. So like people know already that Matt Murdock saved me. My power right now is through villainizing his alter ego. I can't be like, no, that guy who I've just villainized is the guy that saved me.
Yeah.
So, you know, you see kind of some of Fisk's logic there.
But it would have worked so much better in episode 1.
Yes.
Because then it would have been like, hey, remember the finale of last season? We're twisting it.
Well, that's why episode 1 Fisk, it's weird. I just feel like Fisk isn't Fisk. Like, you know, he's not Fiskin. He's not the smartest person in the room. But then episode 2, you start to see his brain, he's thinking more. And I'm like, here we go.
Although, did he murder his boxing coach?
He punched him really hard into a mirror and you just saw blood dripping.
Yeah, it's a little bit of we need to make people remember that he's an angry guy.
Oh, that's what we get. We get the biggest news of the century. Fisk is having a celebrity boxing match, maybe?
Which It's not completely allegorical to the whole like Trump doing the White House UFC match, but it's maybe getting a little too close.
In the UFC.
But like that's the boys' version of it. They'd be like, hey, the president, but like they're doing it on the lawn, like he's the one fighting. So it's a little bit stupid. Maybe I do like it. Because maybe it's giving me something to look forward to in a future episode. Because one thing I was going to complain about was like momentum. Whereas like, sure, people are actually doing stuff in episode 2 and 3, but there's no real like end game apart from Fisk has to fall because there's no mystery in this show. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 of original had a mystery. Karen Page is an investigative journalist. She was always finding out something. Like Kingpin was a mystery.
Karen had some great stories. She was like their little investigator in the office. Yeah. Remember? And she would like run around and like interview the people in the cases and try to dig up dirt. And then she was working with Ben and was like this small time writer. And then she was an investigator. And then she's helping Frank Castle with PTSD and like track down people who murdered his family and the Irish mob and stuff.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, we were discovering stuff, whereas we know absolutely everything about everyone. Like, there's no mystery in this season. So that's where I don't feel like we're like getting something new each week. Like, I'm not surprised by anything.
Where is Matthew Lillard?
Yeah, he just vanished again. They can't afford him. It's weird to bring him up in episode 1
and then Five Nights at Freddy's 3, guys.
And then he's gone for episode 2 and 3. Like, it is kind of weirdly paced, but giving me the Kingpin boxing fight, that should be interesting.
He's all about that public perception. Like, you know, keep the masses happy. To them, he's like happy, everything's fine. You know, he's under so little stress, he has time to do a boxing fight maybe. Not that he's like, it's less he's not looking after the city, he's doing boxing fights instead. It's going to be the opposite. Like, look how safe the city is, you know. And he has time to do a boxing fight, and he's like, he'll fight for you on the streets just like he'll fight for this city. You know, I can see them like doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's the distractions thing, again, can be allegorical to Operation Don't Pay Attention to the Files.
Yes.
I like some of the allegories, and some of the others feel too heavy-handed. So I'm like, it's a
You
mixed
mean
bag.
when the AVTF went into that bodega and started harassing people?
Yeah. And just out of nowhere.
And then like the riot breaks out, and I'm like, oh.
I think someone even yells like, get out of my city or get out of my town or whatever.
Yes.
I'm like, but again, kind of unavoidable. I don't know. Some people are happy about it. Some people aren't happy about it.
What else happened in this episode? We get a little bit of Bullseye.
I don't know if that was needed.
It's weird because it's not enough for how much I want him or how much we need him in this season.
And it takes up screen time of other characters because we're still doing the whole, you did say there's less and there are less, but we're still, we'll cut to Bullseye for 30 seconds and cut away. Like, is he working with the resistance? Is he not?
But it's like, I wonder what his kind of motive is. Like, obviously it's like just cause Kingpin as much like grief and like stress as he can.
But it feels like he could kill him at any time.
Very true. Like his office has a lot of windows.
Yeah, having this wild card out there that is killing 2 random AVTF people, which was a cool scene because like we're slowly fading up like from them in the elevator. And I'm like, who's in the ceiling? And then you see the tar go up and it's the noise instead of like whack whack, which would be a Daredevil. You hear sink sink. And I'm like, it's Bullseye. We laughed at it, them waiting for the doors to open before they slump down.
I'm like, it's like an underworld movie or something. I was saying,
we're not completely disliking the show, but there's still a lot of stuff that I think they're wasting. I think it's almost like they have a good show here, but they're intentionally making it worse by filling it with stuff that I don't care about.
Yeah, like the court scenes with the swordsman.
The swordsman doesn't need to exist, to be honest. I think that's part of like the Matt has nothing to do because they're not investigating anything. They're intentionally making it worse, like the Vanessa stuff and the Heather stuff. Am I a sexist for not caring about the women or are the women poorly written? Daredevil is getting sidelined.
Show is
How much
sexist.
Daredevil are we getting in our Daredevil show? Like Daredevil appears at the start of the episode and the end of each episode.
Like 5 minutes an episode.
And he does some punching. Like, I think that's what's annoying me. Daredevil's not like... so breathy.
I know the bottom of your nose is showing in that suit.
I think it's the middle of the fight scenes. They're making him ADR going, rah, rah, and I think
also,
that's
Jesus
weirdly
Christ,
mixed.
Matt, he is like tight. He's ripped, but he's like very tightly ripped. I'm like, this guy is like, this is the one thing I'm doing, so I'm going to commit to it. Like,
and he's also 10 years older than he was in the original too.
He's leaning over, sitting down like that, with a full 8-pack still showing, and his chest is just like tight and veiny and grainy, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Matthew Murdock. But yes, Vanessa and Heather are like, any scene with them, I'm like, come on. Vanessa is having weird like nightmares
Requiem
about
for
Bullseye.
a dream. Yeah.
Red pill, blue pill, like red or just red and blue color.
I like some of the cinematography, but then they're getting weirdly artsy with that, but not in a fun way. Like They're just doing the Bullseye purple.
Yeah.
I know she signed him up, and that's what part of her dream is. So she's like, oh, I'm worried about my safety. So Buck brings her some Resident Evil guns in velvet cases, like 3 different selections. Like, there's a reason they didn't show him carrying those in, like a little pile of pizza, and then like laying them out. Because that would look stupid. And also, a gun's not going to help you.
True. He would also have a gun or a rock.
Yeah. Is this them trying to give a woman agency?
Yes.
And they just have no idea how to do
it
that?
It shows like how scared she is because she was never a person of violence, but now she's like willing to commit violence.
Yeah, I don't think she should be so forefronted in the show because I don't think they're doing anything interesting with her. And then Heather is still having her PTSD about Muse. So she's hanging his mask, which she got somehow. Maybe on the wall.
She's just like trying to hammer something and she's all like frazzled out. And then she just looks at his mask and like
potentially gooning.
She gets like so angry and it kind of like just like recenters her to just fuck over more fake vigilantes.
Yes, because they're comparing the swordsman being a vigilante to Muse being a serial killer, and those two things are not equal at all.
Yes, Muse never said he was a vigilante, right?
Yeah.
I thought for a second, I'm like, wait, was he a vigilante? And then I remembered he captured Little White Panther.
Yep.
And was like draining her blood.
Who is not getting PTSD flashbacks and is being a little badass.
Very true.
I see a lot of people are angry that the 12-year-old saved the day.
Her uncle could never. Hector Ayala could never.
Well, he was less bulletproof than her. She didn't get shot once.
Very true.
Episode 2 is mostly like building to episode 3, so I kind of get why they chose these two to go back to back, because they also kind of go straight into each other with like Karen kidnapping a guy because it's an AVTF guy being like, hey, I actually hate the AVTF. They're a bunch of crazy bastards. And he's like, cool.
And of course, like a young rookie guy.
Yeah, it's the little nice guy. He was like, cool, he seems fine, which was a great scene because Matt's like baiting him for no reason.
You're lying to me. And then he turns to Karen, he's like, he's telling the truth.
Like such a good Matt thing. I'm like, that's really fun. And that was the most enjoyment we probably had of just like the fun little like Bullseye section.
Because it kind of just feels like old school. And that's why I think I don't like the courtroom stuff that happens later in this episode is because the best courtroom stuff was the stuff that we already saw, like with Matt and Foggy and Karen.
Yeah.
Like this perfect team.
Well, this wasn't courtroom because it was like a kangaroo court. So like it wasn't real. Like they were always going to lose. So they didn't bother showing much of it. And then at that point, I'm like, why have a trial in the episode? Why have a tribunal in the episode if Fisk is already holding all of these rich people illegally in Red Hook, in cages, and completely mistreating them?
You're telling me he needs to still do the court process?
Yeah, if you're doing all of this illegal shit, why do like a little tiny thing?
I think the whole thing they were trying to get through in this episode is that it needs to be televised. Like the swordsman was like, it needs to be a show for the people.
But so many people are disappearing. Like the bodega guy, he already disappeared. Like they didn't need to show the swordsman.
Then I think he says in French, the limited French I know, like a guillotine in the square.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be he needs to be made public. A point of. Yeah.
But again, you've already disappeared him. So it seems like more effort and more risk to put him on display and do this.
Like who's calling for the swordsman to be free? From what we've seen, nobody.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons they do the whole guillotine in the square thing is to, one, entertain the masses and like make them like scared of like that could be you.
Yeah.
But in this, according to the show, the polls are up and like everyone loves Kingpin. Like the BB report showing positivity.
Well, it's like, even if we think that that's like fake news.
Yeah.
When the governor comes in, she says, I turned a blind eye because the polls were up, approvals were up.
Yes. And like that's the modern version of like, you don't need to resort to fear because misinformation is king.
Yes.
And like that's kind of more interesting. Again, BB is doing more harm than good. Like her Fisk impression though, on point.
Very
like,
true.
An insane voice for her to be doing. I guess AI exists. I don't know. But to further the point of like the pointless stuff in episode 1, the ship that's sunk in the harbor is still kind of around, and it's like it's more just giving Matt something to do because Matt's not really doing anything. But parts of this episode is them getting the cargo off the boats because Kingpin wants to build a dynasty and he needs guns. Because I don't think they've quite figured out what they want Kingpin's motivation to be.
Yeah, I don't know what his end game is. I guess running the world.
Yeah, Matt's motivation is stopping Kingpin. But Kingpin is like, I'm going to make the city good. But then he's not doing anything to do that. And he's getting the UK weapons or whatever. It doesn't line up for me.
I'm kind of confused with Kingpin's like scale that he's going for of control. It's like, does he want to run all of New York or does he want to run like America or the world? Like I'm just not quite sure with how far he wants his reach.
And what are the weapons doing? Because there's 2 vigilantes and sure he's using those as a scapegoat to do more control. But it kind of actually seems like he wants the vigilantes gone. And if there were no more vigilantes, everything would be good. But like that's not really how that works. And he's smart enough to know that getting rid of Daredevil and Daredevil and Bullseye are the only master vigilantes we know of.
Yes.
Which is why season 1 had the White Tiger. So it's like, oh, there's more of them. But now it's literally just him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he makes no sense. Whereas Matt makes perfect sense. Stop Kingpin.
Like, I wish we saw when we went to Red Hook, I wish we saw, I don't know,
Spider-Man.
Fuck it, have people in like shitty costumes or homemade costumes, something to show that there are other vigilantes. Because yeah, right now, like you said, there's 3 if you count the swordsman who wasn't doing like other actual like going out vigilantism.
He took one guy in like a phone clip we saw.
Yeah, so it's like very interesting. There's only 2 because I wouldn't call Bullseye a vigilante. He's more like a gun for hire, right?
Yeah, and Muse was a serial killer, so it's White Tiger.
And Daredevil.
Yeah.
And Punisher doesn't count. So it's like, does this town actually have any vigilantes in it? Or is it just a way to get rid of Mexicans? Fisk's just doing this to get rid of the people he doesn't like in the city.
All the people I don't like, which is, I enjoyed that little BB report.
Yes.
It's funny that we hate the BB report, but like BB being real in the Fisk parody, I'm like, that's fun. So part of the reason I think the Swordsman Court exists is to give Mulligan something to do. Mm-hmm. Whether she was a remnant from season 1 and they didn't want to scrap her, or whether they thought they needed some courtroom stuff.
Oh, we get a bit of her and Heather like butting heads. Like she's like, I know you're just like messing with the files and stuff to like try and get like why.
Yeah.
And they're both kind of alluding that they know about Matt's secret, when I don't think either of them actually know about Matt's secret.
Yeah, no, Heather's like still gaslighting everyone into thinking that Matt was a bad person.
Yeah.
But I just don't care enough about either of them. I think Mulligan had a lot more to do because of this case that they've like given her. Mm-hmm. So it feels like that's just taken away from Matt again. Like they're like, oh, we need a lawyer stuff because Matt's on the run. But I'm like, surely there's a rewrite of the show where you could cut out the faff. And I feel like there's too much faff. Because original show, every scene had either one of the core 4. So Fisk, Matt, Foggy, or Karen. Like every single scene is with one of those 4 people. So you can care. Whereas we've got like 16 different people here, including Cherry and the other negotiator cop that are back in this one. Mulligan at the start of this one, she gets to go see her client, the swordsman. So she's walking through the area and they're forefronting all the audio.
Oh, God.
And yeah, I think you said out loud, these are some fun sounds you're going to need to remember later.
I was like, broken glass, dripping water, children playing.
I like the idea of it. There's the fun line where she's like, I was blindfolded, so I didn't actually see anything. And Daredevil goes, I can work with that. Yeah. And like, ooh, like that's really fun. But what it amounts to is her saying, there was wind when I walked in. And he goes, wind means broken ceiling light. I'm going to go to there. Basically, everything she tells him, he could have figured out using his superpowers.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, I felt broken glass on the floor. I walked down some stairs. That's all well and good, but I've seen Matt go to a warehouse and listen out for a watch. Mm-hmm. She did not need to be there. He can hear people screaming on a boat across the harbor from ages away. And he's like, oh, they've blown up the people. When he's inside this Red Hook warehouse, he can hear a watch at a distance. Yet in the next room, there's a bunch of rich people banging on things and like he couldn't find them.
If Stephen was here, he'd say, well, it's because his powers actually he can drown it out. Or the background noise.
Which is exactly, he should be able to hear the one person rocking back and forward because like they've done like an insane asylum thing.
It was like him and Karen in episode 2, they're like in bed listening to music and then he can hear the raid about to start on Josie's bar.
Like I like the idea of this happening.
Yeah.
But it feels like Daredevil could do this.
It'd be great for a video game. It's not needed because he could do it by himself.
Yeah. And then when he goes to said facility and does hear watch and then beats the shit out of everyone, we get a fake Oner, which again is worse than every Oner in season 1, 2, and 3.
People love this one.
People love it. And I'm like, it's so dark, so close. It's not interesting over like a big area. It's a bunch of guys running at Matt and the swordsman from every direction. Mm-hmm. And they're standing in the middle of this facility punching them. We're not using the environment. We're not doing anything interesting. Heck, go back to season 3 where there's a fight in the office building with Poindexter and it's diving behind desks, diving through walls, like using things to defend yourself from Bullseye. Yeah. Bullseye throwing a cup. Whereas in this, they're standing in an open room with a bunch of cages nearby and then people just keep coming at them.
It's more like Mortal Kombat. It's like we have our stage that we're on and we fight in the middle of it.
Yeah, the stage does literally nothing.
They've lost like the 3D aspect to their fights in Daredevil, whereas like Matt would like throw a guy through a door and then like capoeira off a wall and like, you know, be doing cool shit. He was like a full kung fu man.
Yeah, in the prison, like, you're traveling around this. You have a goal. You have somewhere to get to. You have someone to protect. Whereas in this, every time someone pulls out guns, like automatic guns, these people they're told in their headsets to kill the hostages or kill the prisoners. Matt just says, get down, and then no one gets shot.
Yeah.
Like there's just cover wherever they need to be.
Oh,
this is Gears of War.
What about at the end when they finally get out and then Karen and Little White Tiger pull the truck up in front? There's like 5-6 dudes with M4s, just like with unlimited ammo, just like grrr, the entire time. And they're like, cool, let's just run through. And we see like sparks ricocheting and stuff. Not one person gets clipped or hit.
But they also all get suppressed by Karen pulling out a handgun and like firing at them. They're all like, oh shit. We're like, they're fully armored. They have automatic guns.
They wouldn't even be able to hear her handgun.
Yeah.
With that. That's insane.
I think the one was actually the worst part of the episode. Like, I think the rest of the build-up was relatively okay. Like, I'd say this is probably the best 2 episodes, 1 episode of all of Born Again.
Yeah.
I'm still a heist episode defender because it was an episode. It was like a thing. Whereas, again, this one is the prison break episode, but for the last 10 minutes. Like, you really don't do anything major up until the last 10 minutes. But we didn't talk about Daniel.
Well, let's talk about him a little bit. Like, obviously, like he's getting this big story because he's in love with BB.
Yes.
It's very blatant, but she is just very obviously using him.
But she likes him.
She likes him. Like, she sees that he has like good intentions. Like, he's not actually like evil like Fisk. Like, he was probably he got into it with the right intentions.
Yeah.
But now he's just like mixed up with the wrong people.
And he's very misguided. Like, because they have a moment where Fisk treats him like a son. Like, what was the line? Oh, are you trying to protect anyone in this establishment? He's like, yeah, you. Because, like, he was wanting him to say BB or something like that. And then Fisk is like, you are my son, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually kind of cool. I don't know why Fisk won't have a kid. They have a moment.
Have an heir? Did he mention the word? They will mention the word heir?
Yeah, they basically have a little moment where they're like, we're happy with just each other. But he's like, I need an heir, but not in like a baby sense. And then Buck later on, who is mostly pointless, but also likes Daniel. Maybe everyone likes Daniel. That's why we're like, Daniel's pretty cool. But they're basically treating him as the heir apparent. And like, I don't care about Buck and Heather talking about the courtroom and how Fisk is the king. I was like, what did this actually solve me? That's going to make Heather and Buck fall in love. Buck still bores me, I guess. I reckon you could cut this season down and you would have a decent show, mainly because people love Daredevil. But apart from that, I'd still only give it like a 5 or 6.
Well, let's talk about the end of the episode. I thought they were going to hang on Karen shooting a guy a little bit longer. Like, they really, they focused a lot of attention to that. And I think you like see Matt kind of react to it. But the prisoners and swordsman drive away, and then they jump into a brand new Dodge Defender 4x4 with the premium package, and they're speeding away. Thank God no one followed them. And then Fisk is like, well, fuck, the main AVG guy calls him up. Well, we lost everybody, all the hostages, everything is gone. And Fisk's like, all right, well, plan J, blow up the ship.
Yeah, I don't know. Old Fisk feels like he would kill Guy for failing him. Instead, he's like, looks kind of sad, and then they blow up all the guys that Matthew Lillard said to blow up.
He's going to blame that on Daredevil, I assume.
I don't know. But now the ship's gone, and now that storyline's over, right? Because, yes, Daredevil found the watch in that building, but that's going to get moved now. And it seems like Daredevil was surprised the prisoners were there, because he's like, it seems like he was there for the watch, or like he finds the watch there as well. And then he's like, oh, sorry, Karen, I couldn't let those guys stay there.
Is it going to be like the regular cops show up there next episode and it's like completely empty? Like there's no trace?
That's what I mean by momentum. What have we accomplished this episode? We got all of the guys that we didn't actually care about out of there. So now Fisk has less leverage, but like, the only person they even showed us in there was the bodega auntie and the swordsman, who were pretty much non-characters / they were invented in episode 2. It doesn't feel like we've made any progress towards bringing Kingpin down, because that shipment of weapons is a dumb idea.
Well, now we have another ally. El Tigre.
Yes, we have Lil White Tiger, which again, what are her powers? Like,
I guess she's just strong.
Not being bulletproof.
Very true. Not bulletproof.
Can confirm.
A 50 cal to the head will end her.
Ooh, but yeah, so overall,
the ferocity
better.
of a little tiger.
Yeah. I think they need some spice, and which is why the Jessica Jones episode is really going to help. So I'm keen for that.
Do we know when that is?
Probably 5 or 6.
I honestly, I thought she was going to show up at the end here.
Oh, really?
When the 2 cars like showed up to like kill all the hostages and Daredevil and stuff, I thought we were going to get her coming in.
Yeah.
And I was going to be like, we're halfway through the season, kind of.
From the trailer, we know Matt gets the shit beaten out of him in a church. And then
we saw some church. We saw some church. I'm like, Matt's back in a church, baby. Steve would be so happy.
But then it was Bullseye.
It was Bullseye just killing a priest in training.
We never saw the kill.
Well, he like brandishes the knife. He's like, I need absolution.
Yeah, confusing. But he was looking for Matt's mum. Well, he said, does she still work here? Unsure if he was going to apologize or not, but yeah.
You don't want to talk about the duality of Matt and Kingpin both with their bays in bed, like venting?
But like it didn't say anything.
No, it's purely there for chuds like me and you to be like, huh, look at that. It's like they're these big tough guys with the world on their shoulders on the outside, and then they're kind of like us when they're in bed and their wife is like kind of stroking their head and telling them everything's going to be okay.
And
it humanizes these characters I didn't need to be humanized. Also, this is a man who's been through 50 years of therapy in one Native American reservation.
that's true. He does still have a scar, so it is canon.
He's fine. Also, he has an eye that can translate any language.
Oh, he does. That was a thing. What the fuck?
And sign language.
Yeah, no, nothing else to say.
Better than episode 1.
For sure.
Cool to get a 2-episode drop, but I think this should have been episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, / you could have combined them if you cut the fat.